Okay, so we're now going to install the lighting, and I've got here a pair of pliers and my pointed nose tweezers. And the first thing we need to do is remove the little plug from the wire so that we can actually push the wire up through the hole in the ceiling. So use your pliers to pull out the gold pins. Put those to one side. And then just lift up the wire so that we're pulling out the sort of exposed copper wire there, and then pull that through the hole. We can then go over to the actual shop and push the wire through, but I just wanted to show you with this particular spotlight, I just had it in my mind that the wire was coming up through this part, but obviously it can't because that part's movable, so it comes out of the side of the little spotlight. So when you're positioning them, just have a think about hiding that wire. So you'll want to do it so that when that bit's stuck to the ceiling, your wire is behind the sort of stem of the movable part. So I've had a little practice with this first one here, so that's now fitted into place. I think that looks really nice. So I'm going to come over here now, and I don't think on camera you can actually see the little hole in the paper, which is just there, and you may need to make the hole a little bit bigger. I had a bit of trouble getting the wire through there, so I just used my pointed nose tweezers to go up and just make that a little bit bigger. So let's have a go with this one. Put those up there. So push your little wires together so that you're making it into more of a point. And then I actually got hold of them with the tweezers to sort of hold them together. And then poke them up through your hole. Make those copper wires into more of a point there, and I'm just going to have to make that a little bit bigger again. Go up through the hole like that. So pull your wire through from the top until your light is at ceiling height. And then this is the bit I was talking about where you need to, before you pull off your little sticky tab on top of the light, just position it so that you can't see the wire. So there's the wire there, so I'm hiding it behind that stem of the light. I'm pulling the wire quite tightly now so I get my positioning right, and then I'm going to peel off the little sticky tab. Need both hands to do that, like that. So pull your wire again, but before you actually let it stick to the ceiling, again just double check that you've got it in the right place. So I'm looking from the front and hiding the wire like that. So then I'm just pulling up the wire, not too tightly because obviously you don't want to pull it out of the light, and then push the light into place. Try not to lean on your floor. I'm just going to come in with the tweezers there and hold on to that stem and just give that another bit of a press like that. And then all these little spotlights are sort of movable. You don't want to have them so that you're facing it right at the wall like that, because you want the light to be evenly distributed in the shop. Otherwise we'll have dark areas in the shop and then whatever you're lighting up will be brightly lit. Well, you might want it like that, but I want mine so that the shop is going to look quite bright. So they will still be a little bit movable once we've sort of plugged the wires in up above. but sort of get them into the position that you want them, and then we'll attach the wires or plug the wires in. So that's the second one. I've got one more to do, which is in the little landing area up here. So I'll do that one as well. So that's the third one now in place. And now we're going to go up to the roof and reattach the little plugs. So to feed the wire back onto the plug, push them up through the hole in the plug. Don't have to go right up. Use your tweezers to then separate those, and you just want to push each of those little copper wire bits into the holes on the outside. Just use the tip of your tweezers to do that. Make sure all little bits of the wire is going into the hole, and then take your little pin, and on here you've got a longer stem and a shorter stem, and it's the shorter one that you want to push into the little hole. I'm actually going to use my fingers to do that in case it sort of pings off. So make sure that all your wires are still in there. Push that in and then press it in nice and firmly with your pliers. Same on the other side. Oops. Something like that. And then press it in with the pliers. Make sure they're all the way in, like that. And I now want to just try these top three to make sure that they're all working okay. So let me get the socket strip over. So here's the socket strip, and I've left it attached to the adapter. I'm just going to pop that on the side for now. And then I'm going to plug these in. I'll start with that one at that end. Don't forget I'll be feeding the others up in order, so we'll have one coming up here and there, and another one about here. So you want to make sure you leave spaces for them. I mean, you can always unplug, so it's not too important at this stage. I'll just pop one there and one in there. That. Again, these plugs didn't sort of fit perfectly into that socket strip. I wasn't really happy with that, but they are going in, and they're in far enough that they will obviously work. Okay, so let me plug in. Okay, so we're plugged in. So moment of truth. Yep, they're all working, and that's a nice subtle light as well. Once I've fitted all of the lights, I'll close the blinds down in here so we can actually get a better look, because it's quite bright in here, especially with that window behind. But I think they look quite nice. And that one in the little landing here is throwing a really nice light onto that side wall. Okay, so happy with that. So I'm now going to fit the lights into the ground floor. So I've poked the holes through. Again, I came in from behind with a cocktail stick, and then I've just made them a little bit wider using my tweezers. So this time the wire is going to come up and then feed along the track and go out of the back. So pull it up first of all, and then I'll just get this light stuck into position on the floor below. Like that. Again, try not to pull your wire too tightly to sort of pull the light into place. And I know you can't see what I'm doing under there from where you are, but I'm just sort of pushing that against the ceiling there. And then I'm going to poke that out through the back. Carefully pull that through. Lay it into the track, or sort of manipulate it into the track so that the wire hasn't got any sort of little knots or anything in it. I just want to check, yes, that's coming nicely up into the back because I wasn't sure if I'd have enough wire, so that's good. And then once I've done all 3 of these, I'm actually going to put some masking tape over these wires. So let me get them all through and then we'll put the masking tape on. Make that hole slightly bigger again. Okay, so this one comes along the track and then out, but that will be attached with the masking tape, which will hold it in the track. So I'll just poke it through the hole at the back for now. And that one too does go nicely up into the top area if I hold it in place like that. So I now want to get the plugs back on. So that's all those wires now coming over the back there. And before I put the plugs back on, I want to make holes in this part of the roof to feed those wires through. So I'm going to go and pinch Matt's power drill again, make the job a little bit easier. So I'm just making pencil marks for where I need to drill the hole. So I'm doing it centrally from top to bottom on this piece. I'm not measuring, I'm just working that out by eye. And then to actually find the position, pull your wire up so it's coming nice and straight up the back of the property, and then make the little pencil mark there like that. Now that will all depend upon what you're going to be doing with your wires at the back of your house, or which channels you're going to be feeding them through. I'm obviously coming out in 3 different positions, but you may have done yours, fed it behind skirting board or whatever, and be coming up all in one position. So then obviously you just have one larger hole and feed all your wires through. But what I'm actually going to do is do it like this, and then I'll work out what I'm going to do at the back to hide those once we come to it. I said, I think in the last episode, about building those sort of fake chimney breasts on the outside, so I could even do that 3 times. It doesn't matter really what's happening at the back, as long as the wires are concealed. Okay, so I'll now go and get the drill. So I'm just going to get the vacuum cleaner out and tidy up that mess, and then I can feed the wires through and put the plugs back on. So before I pull this wire up through the roof, I just want to apply masking tape to hold it into place, otherwise I'm likely of pulling it too tight and then I'll pull it out of the track. I just want to lay that in there like that. And the masking tape as well will protect the wire when we glue the flooring into place. Strip off there. Oops. So I'll just take this bit to that corner there. Make sure your wire is staying in the track. Like that. nice and flat into the track. Like that, and then I can safely feed that wire up through the top now. Knowing that I'm not going to pull it too tight. Like that. And now I can fit the little plugs back on. So I didn't realise that this had happened at the time, but where I've fed the wire through the hole, I've broken off the little copper wires that are poking out from the plastic wire. So if that happens, you want to trim the white wires level. So you can just cut off the little copper wires like that, so you've got two level white wires. And then you'll need some wire strippers, and this is a pair that I found in Matt's garage, and they've got a really tiny little hole there for the wire to go through, so you'll either need some specialist miniature ones or ones that go really tiny like these. So these are a little bit rusty as well and a little bit stiff, so I have to be really careful when I'm fitting them around the wire. So poke your wire through, and you just want to take off probably about 4 or 5 millimeters, so sort of 13/64 of an inch. So make sure you don't actually cut through the whole thing. You can wait when you sort of feel it resisting, that's when you want to strip. And I think I just said wire cutters, but they are actually wire strippers. I'm still not tight enough there. So feel the resistance like that. And then strip like that, and that removes the wire but leaves the little copper wires there, like that. So do that on both wires so that you've got equal amounts of copper wire showing. Because these are quite rusty, they're quite hard to get as small as I need them, but without cutting through the wire. Yeah, there we are. So I'll definitely be investing in a proper pair of miniature wire strippers, but these have done the job for today. And then I can feed that back onto the plug. So just be really careful when you're putting those through. One idea might be to wrap them in a tiny little bit of masking tape so that you're protecting them when you push them through the holes. A little bit of the wire out so I can get the pin back in. I hope I'm not getting in your way too much here, but because it's so sort of small, it's difficult fitting in round the camera and still showing you what I'm doing. But I hope you can see. Pin back in. I'm doing one wire at a time as well, like that, then you're not likely to pull the first one back out again. So that helps as well, doing it like that. Again, another job I should have my reading glasses on for. Like that. And the final little pin going in. Now I want to try these top 3 lights before I then tape this socket strip into place. And that's actually got an adhesive strip along the bottom, which I've only just realised, so that's good. So let's get these tested. Yep. And they're all working as well. So that's all 6 lights now installed and working. Really pleased with how those look. I think it really adds to that nice sort of modern look of the interior of the shop. So now it's time to tidy up the wires in the top, and I want to drill a hole through for the actual adapter as well. So I also want to tidy these wires up with masking tape so that they'll stay nice and flat in there and be protected from the flooring. Like that, so make sure your wire is nice and flat in the groove. Push that in a little tiny bit. And I want to use some masking tape on the ones at the top as well. So we're at the back of the shop now. I'm actually going to apply masking tape to these wires as well that are going into the roof. So that's that shorter one that came from the little entrance hall area. And go straight over the hole like that. Take that down. Same with that one. And this will all be hidden behind my panelling. I want to say hiddling then. Same with this one. So I'm pushing it through, but I'm not pulling it too tight. So it's taut but not overly tight. So I'll turn us back around the right way. So I want to position the actual socket strip to make it easier for the shortest wire that's coming through, which is that one there. And all the others have got plenty of give on them. Actually, maybe that one's a little bit tight. I'll come over that way a bit more. So you don't want them to be too tight in here. Everything else has got plenty of wire. So I'm going to attach the socket strip there. So you've got this nice adhesive backing on it. Pull that off. Make sure you're not getting any of your wires stuck underneath. So that one's fine, and that one's fine. Stick that down there. And then I'm going to tidy these up as well. So like these extra long ones, I'm just sort of going to not tie the wire up, but just sort of put it into a little bundle like that and then stick it down. Just to keep everything nice and neat. In fact, I'll just turn those lights off. I forgot I'd left those on actually. So I'm just sort of putting it all into a nice neat little bow and then a little bundle and then taping it down. So do that with each of your sort of longer wires. I'll just put a little bit on that one back there. And that just neatens it up a little bit, but also when I sort of put the roof back on, I'm not going to be sort of constantly pulling the wires about. So the next thing I want to do now is drill a hole for this socket strip wire. So I want that to go out about there, and then again I can feed that down the back and that will poke out at the bottom then to be plugged in when I'm ready to light the shop. And when you're drilling the hole for this larger extension lead wire or adapter wire, you'll need to drill it large enough to get these little horseshoe bits through. So that's going to need probably about a 6mm drill bit for those. So there's the larger hole. I split the wood a little bit on the inside just because it was such a large drill bit. So that's there. So I'm going to back this up now and then I'll feed those wires back through. But when you're drilling as well, if you're going from this way, just be really careful that you're not getting any of the wires caught up in your drill. So just sort of hold those out of the way, or you can even tape those down just temporarily just to make sure they're not going to wind up sort of in the drill. So that's plenty big enough now for me to fit those little horseshoes through. So I'll just back away the dust and then I can do that. So I actually removed that little splinter of wood just so it didn't go up the vacuum cleaner, and I can then glue that back into place. But I'm now going to feed through the adapter wire. Might be able to get those through together as it was a slightly bigger hole than I sort of thought. Feed that through. And fit the little horseshoes back onto the adapter. Phillips screwdriver or a crosshead screwdriver. I think depending where you are in the world. Like that. And that one. So I'm just going to try that and make sure I've put those back in properly. So let me just plug that in. Yep, they're all working. So that's all gone back in properly. So the final thing I want to do is now turn the shop around again and just stick the wire of the adapter to the back of the shop. So what I did first of all was just put a little strip across the wire in there so that I won't have any problems putting the actual roof back on. And now I just want to feed it down the back of the shop like that. And then when it comes to sort of enclosing those, then I can do two, you know, those sort of false chimney breast things to hide it all nicely in there. And then with this one, I'm just going to sort of put some strips going across. And don't pull it too tightly, you don't want to sort of risk pulling it out of the socket strip. Oops, sorry. Make sure it's laying nice and flat against the back of the house like that. The wire was curled up in the box quite a bit, so that's why it's sort of twisted like that. And I'll put one final piece right at the bottom there, and I always remove the plug. I don't like leaving things plugged in, so I'll just plug that in and out as I need it. So let's turn that back round. So because of the wire coming out of the back there, the roof is sitting up just a little bit further than it should, but it isn't really affecting the overall look. So it still looks as though it's in the right place there. I'm really pleased with how that looks now it's lit. I think that gives a really nice light, and once we've actually got some things in there, that's going to look really nice. It really does make a difference, doesn't it, lighting? So that's one job done that I was a bit nervous about doing, but it's actually, I think, one of those things that you feel is going to be really difficult, but actually with the correct lights and tools and what have you, it's quite a simple job. And I hope if you haven't done any sort of lighting before using the wires, that has given you a few tips and that you feel a little bit more confident about doing it yourself. Okay, so that's it for today, and I really hope you've enjoyed this double episode. See you soon. Bye.